It's a lovely day today, so whatever you've got to do, you got a lovely day to do it in, that's true. And I hope whatever you've got to do is something that can be done by two, for I'd really like to stay.
Welcome to Ask Aunt Ann. It's a lovely day here, and I hope it's a lovely day where you are. We have a wonderful show prepared for you today. Valentine's Day is coming up, and we have had a number of questions sent to us about planning that special day. We'll learn how you can make a very special card for a loved one. We'll whip up some fudge and other chocolate treats, learn how to arrange those roses you're sure to get, and more. So stay with us. First, let's go to the workroom where my friend Peggy Sue is set up to show us how to create some really special cards in answer to a viewer's question. Hi Peggy Sue, thank you for stopping by today. A handmade card can make any occasion really special.
Hi Ann, I love to share card making with my friends.
And the cards that you send will be treasured by those who receive them. Now, let's go to the letter from our viewer. Becky Lustgarden from Deerfield writes, Dear Aunt Ann, my husband and I have had a hard time financially the last year, and we have decided not to give each other gifts. Do you have a suggestion for something I can give him that doesn't cost anything but shows how much he means to me? Becky, we have just the thing, a handmade card. Heather, what advice do you have for Becky?
Well, Becky, I would suggest a pocket Valentine's Day card.
Ooh.
This is our pocket Valentine's Day card that I made for my husband. A pocket Valentine's Day card is where you have a little piece that you can take out, which I think is cute, hence the
Very
pocket.
cute.
Now, because coffee is important to my husband and I did a coffee theme for this, and on the inside of the card, it says, I like you a latte.
Oh, that's so
Be my
clever.
Valentine. So to start off with a card, I usually take a single sheet of cardstock paper and I cut it in half. This makes a nice invitation size card. And then this cutter that I have is really nice because it has a wire that runs right along there. So you can just run it right along there.
Very nice.
Cuts your paper in half for you. And I start also with stamping on the inside of the card, so that has time to dry. And I've got a couple different varieties, and I've got the standard stamp, which is a woodblock stamp, as well as the new clear stamps. These are nice because you can peel off the clear stamp and put different ones on the block, and you can see where you're stamping as well.
That makes it very versatile.
Yes. So I'm just going to get my ink ready here. And press nice and evenly here so that there's lots of ink on there. And I'll center up here.
And do you have to do anything special to clean the stamps to get the ink off?
I do. You can use a paper towel or a sponge. I like to use a cleaning pad and some Windex.
Ah.
You just spritz it down there. Because you want to scrub the ink off so that it doesn't mark it up for the next time, because I might want to make purple hearts next time.
Sure, easy.
It is. And then you're ready for the next time you want to stamp with a different color. We'll close up our stamp pads. Now, if you don't have stamp pads that click down like mine do, you want to be sure to store your stamp pads upside down. Because when you store them right side up with the pad up, the ink sinks to the bottom and they dry out on top. So you store them upside down so that the ink stays fresh on the top of the pad.
I learned something new today. Thanks, Peggy Sue.
Yeah. So now I need to make this background for here.
And where do you usually get your supplies?
You can get them at craft stores. There are companies like Stampin' Up! As well. I oftentimes go to Hobby Lobby, and it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be the expensive supplies to make really nice cards,
Sure.
which is nice. And you also will have these for the next time because there's so many varieties that you can you can do. So now I've got my red base, and if you notice we have the black here that we want a little edging on. So we'll do the same thing with the black. I like to cut out everything that I'm going to put together before I actually start constructing everything.
Okay.
So we've got our cute little Valentine heart here, and I found some really adorable paper with some vintage Valentines on it. And I'm going to use a heart-shaped stencil, and I might center it on one of these funny-looking Valentines. And you just draw. So now this is where it's not an exact science, but you're going to take your heart that you've cut out of the paper here, the design paper, and I am using an adhesive tape instead of a glue stick. This seems to work better. It also doesn't have acid in it, so those scrapbookers out there use these too to make scrapbooks that will last forever.
And it's a little bit neater than using a glue stick.
Yes.
Not quite so messy.
And it dries very quickly too, which is nice. Do this again with the red, so we have 2 layers to match the back of the card too.
Okay, sure.
And anyone can do these.
And it makes them much more personal than just a store-bought card.
Yes. So for the cup, now you can do any design. I created my own design, which was the cup. I first sketched out what I wanted to make and made a template so that I knew exactly how it was going to lay on the card before I did anything else. And take the template just like you would with the heart, and you draw it onto the paper. I've already cut one out. You could also do envelopes. You could do anything that's personalized to yourself and your Valentine.
Sure. You could also use this same little cup design and go with the theme of tea.
True.
It could say, "You're my cup of tea."
There you go. So we're going to put our cup on there. Now you can be as detailed as you want drawing on the cup, or you could make it more implied as well. So we'll draw on there.
And are those a special kind of marker?
These are, you can find these in craft stores around the scrapbooking and the card making area. This has 2 different tips on it. It has the brush tip as well as a finer tip for writing with. I'm using the brush tip to kind of give it a painted look.
Could you actually use a brush tip marker to apply the color to a stamp?
Yes,
Okay.
you can. So if you wanted to change up the colors, or if you wanted to change the colors of the letters on a stamp, I like to color in, like I have Christmas stamps that I'll put red and green and alternate the colors on it.
That's a very clever idea.
And then we've got our Valentine, and we might want to put a little bit of glitter. As I like to add lots of little touches, so I am using a heart-shaped, what is this
Paper
thing?
punch.
Paper punch. I'm using a heart-shaped paper punch to cut out some glittered hearts from this sheet of paper.
And the paper is actually glittered paper?
The paper is glittered paper.
Very pretty.
And we can add a little bit of glue to these, or if you have glue dots, that works really well as well.
And do you make your own envelopes for your cards?
I don't. I actually, you can find in any stationery aisle of Walmart or any store, you can find invitation-sized envelopes, and those fit perfectly. And that saves you a little time and effort there too. So we're going to put our little heart in there. And then we have our Valentine.
Look at how nice that looks. Well, thank you, Peggy Sue. That wasn't hard at all.
No.
Becky, I think you can really make something special for your husband, and I hope that things turn around for you soon. Peggy Sue, can you stay for a while?
I sure can, Ann. I'll see you in a little while.
Okay. We had another viewer letter with a Valentine's-related question. Here's what Darlene Rose from Cambridge asks. Dear Aunt Ann, I get roses for Valentine's Day each year, but I can never seem to make them last for more than a day or two. What am I doing wrong? Well, Darlene, here are some tips to keep those roses happy for longer than just a few days. Stem bottoms dry up almost instantly and will draw up air bubbles, so get your flowers into water as soon as possible. Never cut stems with the scissors. This will crimp the stem where the flower draws up water. Always use a sharp, non-serrated edge knife. Cut the stems at a downward angle, about 1 inch from the bottom of above where the stem is discolored. Change the water every 2 days, adding fresh, cool water with fresh food. On the 4th day, cut the ends another ½ inch or so and place back in the container. If your roses are really tight, you can force them open by using slightly warm water, but cool water is always best to preserve your flowers. Add 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1 drop of bleach to the vase water if you have no flower food. For longer flower life, do not place your arrangement on top of the TV, a warm location where sunlight will be on it for several hours during the day, or directly in front of a fan, heater, or air conditioner. I'll list these tips on my website so you don't have to worry if you can't remember them all. And that website is askantann.com. Now it's time to get cooking. One of my favorite things to make for Valentine's Day is fudge, and I don't know anyone who makes better fudge than my neighbor Cindy. She should be here any minute. While we're waiting, let's answer a question from our Facebook page. Noelle L'Esperance from Milwaukee asks, what do you get a significant other on Valentine's Day when you are first dating? Tricky. It sure is. And we tend to read so much into gifts at that stage of the game. You don't want your gift to be too big or too small. It's a delicate balance. Here are some tips for you. For a new relationship, it's best not to spend more than $30 to $50. Anything over that price might make your new guy or girlfriend feel like you're taking the relationship a bit too seriously, too fast. Plus, if your partner has gotten you something less lavish, it will make for an awkward situation. On the other end of the spectrum, don't get a gift that's too small. The key is to show that you've enjoyed the time you've spent so far, have listened and learned a bit about them, and would like to continue down that road. Here are some suggestions. Books. Yes, I know what you're thinking and that it sounds boring, but if you do it correctly, it can show your new guy or gal that you're a good listener. Did she mention that there's a book she's always wanted to read but never got around to it? Or there's a new book from an author he said is his favorite? That's when a book is a good gift. It shows you've been listening and take interest in their life, and it's something you know that they'll like. CDs, DVDs, and box sets. Get something you know he or she likes and doesn't already have. You can even take it a step further and get other merchandise that relates to the music, movie, or television show. Most bands and broadcast companies have stores on their websites where you can buy mugs, t-shirts, bobbleheads, USB drives, and more with all the designs from different shows. Hobby-related gifts are another good suggestion. If your new boyfriend has been enthusiastically sharing about his hobby and has suggested that you try it, that's a good sign that he would enjoy your involvement. Perhaps you can get a gift that the two of you can work on together, or personalize something she would use for the hobby. For example, if she's really into puzzles, buy a 5,000-piece puzzle and do it with her. Or if he's into stamp collecting, get him a pair of tweezers with his initials engraved on it. Another suggestion is chocolates or cookies. Make them yourself. Find a recipe, whip them up, and package it on your own. Bonus points if you know what his favorite dessert is. And if she's a vegan, make special vegan cookies. Again, show him that you are listening to him and follow your heart. Oh, I think I hear Cindy now. Hi, Cindy. How are you today?
I'm good, Anne, but how can you be anything but good when you have fudge in your future?
You're so right. Fudge is one of my favorite things, and I know that you've made quite a name for yourself with this recipe, so thank you for sharing.
Not a problem. Well, what you have to do first is get your ingredients together.
Okay.
And then you start out with 1 cup of milk,
Okay.
a cup of butter, and this is the salted butter, not the
Salted
unsalted.
butter, okay.
Whoop. And then you need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then you need 4 cups of sugar. And I already have that pre-measured. Can you hand that to me?
You bet. 4 cups.
4 cups. You add that to the pan.
Okay.
And then you need to bring this to a boil, stirring constantly, and then you boil it for about a minute.
Okay. Does it stick if you don't stir it?
It can, and then it also helps just to make sure that everything mixes evenly and that the butter melts evenly as it's boiling.
Okay. The vanilla smells wonderful.
It does. And this might take about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Now you want to let this boil about a minute.
Okay.
And then we remove it from the heat. And then we have already pre-measured 6.5 ounces of mini marshmallows.
Do you know about how many cups that is?
That's about 3 1/4 cups.
Okay.
And I use the mini ones because they tend to melt faster than the bigger marshmallows. I add this separate from the chocolates and add those one at a time.
Okay. And we have chocolate squares and chocolate chips?
Yes, you need 2 ounces of the unsweetened chocolate, and then we will be adding 12 ounces of milk chocolate chips and semi-chocolate chips.
Okay. Can I pour those in?
Not yet.
Okay.
We need the marshmallows to melt completely. Okay, that's close enough. You can
Okay.
add that. Okay.
Yummy.
And then you can add this. All right. So making fudge isn't as hard as some people think it is. There are some recipes that are very temperamental and very touchy, and you have to have it at a right temperature before you can, yeah. This is pretty easy.
That's what I like, keeping things simple.
Yep.
And do we have to butter or grease the pan that we're putting it in?
Nope, it can go straight into a 9x13 pan.
Okay. Does it matter if it's glass or metal?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I've used both. And I've even used the disposable foil pans.
Oh, sure.
And I've even used smaller ones and have made several different tins to give to people as gifts.
Oh, I bet they appreciate that.
All right, I think we're ready to pour this in. Okay, and then it's ready to go into the refrigerator.
Okay.
And I usually just chill it overnight, but I think about 2-3 hours should be fine.
What a great recipe, Cindy. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Now I'd like to share one of my favorite new recipes with you. Have you ever heard of cake balls or cake pops?
Yes.
They're one of the very popular baking goodies these days, and they're very easy to make. I'm sure the kids would love to make them. So first, let's get all of our ingredients together.
Okay.
Now you could make this using your favorite cake recipe from scratch, but to make it really easy, just use a box cake mix and canned frosting. First, you're going to make the cake and cool it. Next, we're going to crumble it. So let's just take a section and crumble it right into the bowl. Make sure that there are no chunks. You want it crumbled up very fine. And once it's crumbled, we're going to add our frosting that's been sitting out in a while so that it's nice and soft. We're going to add about 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup. And Cindy, I'm going to let you stir that in there. So you want to get it all mixed up, the cake and the frosting. And then once you've got the mixture mixed up really well, what we're going to do is use a cookie scoop, just like this one, And we're going to scoop out some of the cake and frosting mixture. I'm just going to scoop it out right into my hand and roll it into a ball. Then put it on a parchment-lined cookie sheet. And when you have your cookie sheet filled, you're just going to pop that into the freezer for at least 2 hours. So we've just taken our cake balls out of the freezer. And remember, viewers at home, we've got hot lights that we're working under, so this may not work quite as well here as it will at your house. So what I'm going to do is get ready to dip the cake balls. I'm just going to put a toothpick right in the center, dip it right in the chocolate, and then take a little bit out on the spoon, drizzle it on top. And then to make it a little bit more festive for Valentine's Day, I've got these red sprinkles. We're just going to sprinkle some right on top of that white chocolate. Doesn't that look nice? And then if you want to make our treats into a special gift for your Valentine, what we can do with the special little treats is get some fun candy liners, or I guess you could think of these as little mini cupcake liners. And once these are set, just pop each one in a liner. You can actually put your fudge in one of those if you'd like. Get some of these nice little window boxes. These have a sweetheart on them for Valentine's Day. We just folded them up, put all the nice assortment of goodies and treats in there, and fold it up, and it would make such a special gift for that Valentine.
And another way to keep things special is to take one of your favorite recipes and make a Valentine's twist for it. Instead of using chocolate kiss on your peanut butter blossoms, use a chocolate heart instead.
That's a great idea, Cindy.
It's been so much fun working in the kitchen with you today, Ann.
And thank you, Cindy. But we're not done. Can you stay for a while? I'd like to have you and Peggy Sue do a fun craft with me if you can stay.
I'd love to. What are we going to make?
I found this craft project for origami bookmarkers on the internet. Why don't you go find Peggy Sue and we'll get started?
Okay.
Welcome back, girls. I bet you have quite a few girlfriends that you would like to give a little something special to for Valentine's Day.
Yep.
Well, how about a special little bookmark? I found this idea on the internet. It's a nice little origami heart bookmark, and I've already folded mine once, so I'm going to use this as my pattern, and I'll tell you girls how to do it. So we're going to start with just a square sheet of paper and fold it in half. Just bring the bottom right up to meet the top. And then we're going to fold it in half the other direction. And then we're going to open it back up. And we're going to fold the bottom section just up so that it meets the center horizontal crease. And then we're going to turn it over. And next, we're going to fold each of the bottom corners up to meet just where that vertical line goes from top to bottom. So the next thing we're going to do is flip it over, and we want to bring the point all the way up to the top center. And then we flip it back over, and we've got these two little flaps down here. And what I'm going to do is use my finger just to open up the flap so that I make like an arrow's head that's pointing toward the center. It's like a yep, you've got it. And then just press it down.
Okay.
Give it a crease so that it makes two triangles, one on each side, that are pointing right into the center. Just fold the triangle from the edge for both sides. So this little part down here gets folded up to meet the other edge of the triangle. Yep,
Okay.
just like that. And then the little points down on the bottom get folded about a third of the way up. So at about a third, you just want to make your fold. Good. And do that on each side. Okay, and then we're going to turn it over. This is making our heart, so we can put it so that the heart's upright. There you go. And then the last thing that we do is take each of these side edges and just fold those behind the heart. And then you've got this neat little bookmark that you can just put right on the page of your book. You can put yours on there, Peggy Sue, and it'll show nicely against the white paper.
Aren't they cute? And there's so many fun papers out there to do this with.
Yes. The instructions can be found on my website, askantann.com, as well as the recipes and how-to tips from this episode.
So, Ann, do you have a special Valentine this year?
Oh, I don't know. Do you?
Well, yes. He's a lawyer, and he's very nice. He's about 6'2". L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore. And love is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you. L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore. And love is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you. Love was made for me and you. Love was made for me and you. Anne, where did you go?
Oh, sorry. I was thinking about something else.
I'll say. Come on, Peggy Sue, I'll give you a lift home.
Thanks, girls. And thank you for tuning in. As always, I'd like to end with a poem. Oh, I wonder who that could be. Who is it?
It's Jimmy.
Come on in.
Hi, Ann.
Hi, Jimmy. Everyone, you remember my neighbor Jimmy. What's up, Jimmy?
Well, I was wondering if you had any plans for Valentine's Day.
No, I don't.
Would you like to come out with me?
I'd love to. Well, I guess that's all for this episode. Please join us next month when we'll be focusing on spring. And here's one of my favorite verses. Love is patient, based on Corinthians 13. Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things.
It's a lovely day today, so whatever you've got to do, you got a lovely day to do it in, that's true. And whatever you've got to do is something that can be done by two. For I'd really like to stay. It's a lovely day today, and whatever you've got to do, I'd be so happy to be doing it with you. But if you've got something that must be done, and it can only be done by one, there is nothing more to say.